Alrighty, and we are live. Fantastic. Hello, folks. Welcome, friends. Another fantastic Friday here for a Hobby Hangout. I hope everybody had themselves an awesome week. I actually had a pretty good week myself. We'll get into that a little bit later on. It's not like, I guess, super exciting, but I found it interesting. Yeah, I hope everybody's having themselves a good week. I hope everyone's excited for the weekend. For those of you that are still on some sort of lockdown quarantine thing, I hope you're managing well. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying healthy. Yeah, I'm glad to see. I'm glad to see that everybody that I know, at least, is doing well, or at least as well as can be expected. Um, What's up, Alex? I see Alex in the chat. How's it going, buddy? Yeah, so that's that. I hope everyone, like I said, is doing real good. I myself had a pretty good week. I just came off a week of vacation. Monday being a holiday, I got like a bit of an extended vacation by a day, which was kind of nice. And Alex, buddy, happy weekend to you as well. So yeah, it ended up being a 4-day week, and for those that don't know, I work in a medical supply warehouse. We'll just kind of leave it at that. And basically, recently, I was trained on some new equipment. Not new to the work, just new to me. And so I was certified on some new equipment. And all week this week, basically, they had me on the new equipment, just sort of like learning the ropes and getting to know it. And honestly, I like it. It's a lot of fun. So it's definitely sort of a learning, bit of a learning curve. But I'm feeling like every day I feel a little bit more comfortable in the role that it entails. So there's that, and that's a plus. And I think when I have enough experience doing that under my belt as I do doing what I was doing before there, I think I will end up liking it far more than what I was doing. So there's that. Something to look forward to, I guess. Good. I'm glad to hear things are going well for you, man. Yeah, so welcome to tonight's stream. I'm not entirely sure. I have a couple of ideas of what I'm going to be working on today. Some stuff that I've been meaning to do for a while. There's some things that are kind of tedious that I need to do, and I'm thinking I'll probably save those for not on stream. That includes, I just bought this bundle of 300 magnets. They're 6mm by 2mm magnets. And I usually stick these on the underside of the miniature bases for transportation. I can fairly easily then stick them to, you actually see behind me here, there's a stack of plastic bins. Each one of those bins has a cookie tray inside, just like a metal, run-of-the-mill cookie tray. And so all the miniatures with the magnets on the bases get stuck to those, so that I can just take a couple of bins, put them in the car, drive to the shop, drive to wherever. Michaela, what's going on? How are you? Yeah, so I'll bring those to the shop, bring them to a friend's house, whatever the case may be. It also makes for nice, easy, convenient storage here at home. So I ran out of magnets, just got a fresh supply. So I know I need to do that. So for those that, let's see, I'll grab this guy as my example for funsies. So for those that didn't catch, was it last stream? I don't know. I think I did somewhere along the line. I did like a little extra bonus stream here and there. I did a couple just short little things testing out some audio settings. Which actually reminds me, for those either watching live and in the chat, or those that catch this on YouTube after the fact, in like video playback or whatever, let me know in the comments or in the chat or whatever what you think of the audio. I did a little bit of tweaking. I do actually have the window unit AC running right now, and hopefully that doesn't actually come through. But that sounds actually pretty awesome, Michaela. We'll see. I'll let you know. Dave Harris, what is up, buddy? Yeah, so anyway, but recently I've been working on these guys here. It's a bunch of undead skeleton knights, my black knights. So I got 5 of them just about done. So I'm probably going to end up getting the bases done for these guys, these 5 guys today. I also have here a little baggie full of horse skulls, because these none of these horses I put heads on yet. So I primed these earlier today. So I'm going to grab a random 5 of these and just get them painted up and ready to stick onto the bodies. So my game plan, I think, is to put the finishing touches on those knights in particular. I do have like a bunch of other stuff to work on. We'll kind of see where that goes, but I think everything that I try to work on tonight is going to revolve around getting that group of 5 knights just finished completely. So yeah, I think that's where we're at. I'm sipping on some coffee right now because it's been a long day. And I got a couple hours to go in this stream, and I want to make sure that I don't crash too soon. That's all I got. We're just going to kick this off. So we're going to go ahead and switch down to the desk, readjust the light here. And so we'll bring out the let's see, bring out all the nights that I was working on over the course of like the last week or so. I got a bunch of these hammered out at the tail end of my vacation. So here you can see, we'll just kind of do one of these. That should somewhat show off the unit, although it doesn't like to focus on the mat. But, you know, whatever. You get the idea. I will, once these are all based and done, I'll go ahead and throw pictures up on Instagram, which of course will get shared out to Twitter and Facebook as well. All of the links to all of my socials and stuff are in the description for this video, and they'll show up in the description on the video on YouTube as well. For those that haven't done so already, there should also be in the description here a link to said YouTube channel. So if you want to head over there at some point, be it now or be it at some point in the future, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you like this and you want to see some more. All my stuff gets posted there. I am planning a couple of other video series coming up sometime in the near future-ish. So whenever that stuff starts churning out, you'll get your notifications and stuff if you click the little bell icon. You know, if you like the videos, please slap some like buttons. Okay, so that's enough shameless self-promotion for the time being. So I picked up, got them in the mail the other day, a bunch of these nice black bases here. These are just some oval cavalry bases of approximately the right size. The dimensions I don't remember off the top of my head because, you know. Yeah, let's do that, Michaela. That sounds like a good time to me. I'm still super new to the whole YouTube thing, but so far it's been a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to learn, and I like a good challenge. So, yeah. These things were held up forever, these bases. I ordered them on eBay. I found a lot of 40 of them for like $11 from China. And being as they're from China in the middle of a pandemic that sort of originated-ish in that country, you know, then it just took a while to get here. But anyway, that's not the important thing. The important thing is I got the bases. And Wes is happy. Oh, I did a thing. We're going to go ahead. Let's pick a random song here. Oh, let's go with this one here. So I went ahead and hooked up music to get piped through into the stream here, which hopefully is not too overpowering for everyone. It's set to a certain level in my headphone that isn't necessarily the same as what's going out to you guys. So please just let me know if it's too loud, if I need to adjust it up or down. But it should be a little something kind of nice in the background, I guess. And of course, it's all copyright free so that YouTube doesn't yell at me later when I post these up. Okay. Matter at hand. While I have these guys not glued onto the bases, it'll make my life easier drying. So we're going to grab some of these magnets that I just picked up, and we're going to glue these on the bases now because the opportunity presented itself. So where did I put my super glue? There we are. So what's everybody up to in the chat here? How's everyone doing today? Is anybody working on a hobby of their own? Doesn't matter what it is. Could be knitting, could be stamp collecting. Maybe you're pinning some fresh butterflies or whatever it is you happen to do. Let me know what y'all are doing. I'm going to try real hard not to glue anything to my fingers. You'd be amazed how often that happens, especially when dealing with super glue. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you know all too well. Michaela, as a nail artist, I'm sure you know what it's like to use like nail glue or something and end up with a nail somewhere you didn't intend. Having a beer, Alex. That, sir, is a fantastic idea. I actually have one waiting in the wings here. Nothing special, nothing fancy. It's a little Guinness Extra Stout. But it is yummy nonetheless. And once I'm done with my coffee, I'll switch over to that. Let's back up. All right. So we're going to give those a second to do their thing. We're going to put this away. We're going to grab the plastic glue to patch them. And then I guess we're going to work on some horse skulls, because why not? All right, so I need 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take number 5. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay, so we need our palette. Move some stuff around on my desk here. The unfortunate thing was when I added all of my computer stuff and I added my, all my monitors and stuff for streaming here, I ate up a good healthy chunk of my hobby space. So things have become a little bit more cramped, but I was able to fit everything I needed to. And I think with a little bit more organizing and as I finish some of the projects that are sort of scattered around on my desk here, that's going to substantially help to, do that. I was Michaela, I was looking earlier before the stream. I was trying to find somewhere around here. I have a pair of tweezers that I was going to use to I was going to take the tweezers, and then I was going to take like one of those little itty bitty like hair ties, the little black rubber band things, loop it around the tweezers a bunch to like hold them shut, and then I was just going to like pry them open, stick these in between it, and like use that to hold it. I'm going to come up with something else right here, a little blue tack, and we're just going to kind of do that, and that'll do for now. Okay, I need my paints of choice for this? What am I looking for? I'm looking for... Where are you? There you are. Black Earth Flesh. This is, let's see here, nice warm sort of creamy beige, and I enjoy this for a base coat for bone, so that's what I'm using. This also makes a really good pale flesh tone color, which I think is its intended purpose, but depending on what you do with it and how you treat it, what kind of other colors you add to it, glazes, washes, things like that, it becomes useful for all kinds of things. I could do that, but all right. So at this point we are, let's see, are we in, wow, that is just does not want to focus on that at all. Well, sorry about that, guys. It's all right. It's not super interesting, I guess, but yeah, so we're just base coating all of the bone, and this brush is too small. I don't want this. Let's bring out the big guns. Yeah. We got territory to cover and no time to waste. Huh. Never noticed this before until I just painted, like I've painted 5 other Black Knights in the past, and I never noticed this before. I doubt it will focus enough for you to notice. No, of course it won't. Why would it? Anyway, somewhere on the neck, right about here, you can see modeled on there amidst the bone is what looks like his trachea or windpipe or something. It's definitely not bone. It looks a little bit more fleshy. So that's an interesting little tidbit that I never noticed before. I love when you find little surprises like that. Checking every now and again to make sure I'm still at least somewhat in frame here. All right. So how's everybody doing? Did everybody have themselves a nice week? I hope so. Music level is perfect. Awesome, man. That's great. You can thank Chris in the chat here. Dope audio levels indeed. The other day when I was trying to get things ironed out, I happened to he happened to catch me in the process and was able to help me out. So I was going back and forth with him trying to iron out levels and make sure things sounded good. So you can thank him. All right, you know what? We're just going to go with ye olde fingers because that thing is really pissing me off. The only problem I find as somewhat of an audiophile and music snob in general is the music that I want to play or want to listen to in a time like this. It's not copyright free, and I'd rather not get slapped with some sort of copyright thing from YouTube because, you know, but at the same time I enjoy having music going. So while it might not be my first choice, this was some of the least annoying stuff I could find. I might at some point maybe try and switch over to some, if I can find some. I know I found one playlist that was like chill step and like dubstep stuff, and maybe I'll do that at some point. Switch over to some more, I guess, straight up electronica. This is supposed to be a playlist of like piano and guitar music, but both the piano and the guitar are clearly not real. It's clearly just a synthesizer, so it's less than an ideal set of stuff, I guess. But like I said, it'll do in a pinch, I guess. Some of these skulls, like this one right here, this little horse skull, has like sinew and muscle still on the jaw, so I'll pick that out later. Right now I'm just slapping on this bone color, trying to get as much of it covered as possible, as quickly as possible. Neatness is not the key right now. We're not worried about being neat at all with the situation because we still have a lot of steps to go. I really wish I had those tweezers, I'm not gonna lie. It'd make my life easier. If for no other reason than it would just be a slightly more secure way of holding this. Alright, this just sounds like real bad porn music. We're gonna just skip this song. Next. Let's see. I don't have anything lying around nearby that I can use to suit my needs. I don't know. I don't see anything. Only I knew where those tweezers wandered off to. Oh well. Win some, lose some, I guess, right? Do. Let's see. Can't complain, eh, Alex? So I take it to mean that you had a pretty decent week then. That's good. A little slow in my response there. I apologize. Some more of this paint. Keep that out because I guarantee I'm gonna need more. Hate when you find a little spot where you missed like a mold line, or in this case a little piece of sprue flashing. Of course means we're also scraping our primer off, but a little tiny spot, it'll be fine. Eventually I'll hit all this with a coat of varnish and it'll lock it on there anyway, so I highly doubt it will matter. Have all your sort of painting best practices and then you throw them all out the window when you're trying to get something done in a hurry. Since this is not something I'm painting for a competition or as a commission, we're just gonna get through it. This is for my own personal army, my undead army. Because undead is cool as fuck. It's fucking metal is what it is. See, Justin's joined us here. Justin, what's up, buddy? How's it going? Polymer clay, huh? That does sound like fun. I'd like to see what you come up with. While I don't necessarily need any crates or barrels off the top of my head, if you want to make some, I'd love to see them. And I bet you I'll need something in the future, so... I actually was just looking at, from one of my early streams, I had put together some bases of crates and barrels as terrain, and I glued them up and brought them out into the garage to prime them. I just never got to that step, so they're just sort of sitting out there still. And I was thinking about throwing some primer on them earlier, but it was not high on my list of priorities at the time, so we'll go back and we'll pay some attention to those sometime soon. Looks like my wife Gina has popped into the chat. Hello. How are you? That means one of two things as far as I can tell. Either A, our daughter is asleep, finally, or she's given up on trying to get her to go to sleep. One or the other. Ah. So her appetite finally caught up with her. Our daughter was refusing to eat earlier. She would much rather play and run around and climb on us and stuff like that. Food was the least of her worries, and then once it became bedtime, she realized, hey, wait a second. I could use some food. I'm convinced it's all a grand ploy of procrastination just to avoid going to bed, which is very advanced for a near 2-year-old, so... Ah, son of a bitch. This has a little chunk of sprue still stuck to it, too. Where's my nippers? Good enough. No one will ever know. It looks like Tracy's joined us in the chat as well. Hello, Tracy. Try and keep this somewhat in frame here. I'm just winding up with paint all over my fingers. I'll call that good for now. That's fine, Michaela. For what it's worth, I'm used to that with our daughter, too, so. Oh, yeah, we got to get after this coffee. It's getting real cold real fast, folks. Gonna pound this down in a hurry. There we go. All right. I see Jarrett has joined us in the chat as well. Hello, buddy. What's going on? How is your Friday going? Which I guess is kind of like your Saturday. I think we're still on for tomorrow, I think, for dropping off my PC with you. Let me know what time during the day works well for you, and I'll swing by. I know you said you'd be around most of the day, but I don't want to drop by during mealtime or something like that, so. Just let me know what works for you. Michaela, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're enjoying. When I first, like my first couple of streams, I had on just like some super chill, relaxing, just straight acoustic music, which would be my preference for this kind of thing. That or like my Northern Spirits playlist with all of like my, you know, sort of Nordic folk music and stuff. Those are sort of my go-to painting playlists. But of course, it's all copywritten music and stuff like that. And as soon as I post this stuff to YouTube, it all gets flagged. And I've had a couple videos get flagged for it. And it's not like a super big deal. It's not like they're going to be like, you know, going out and trying to sue me necessarily. But and of course, I'm not, none of these stream videos, when those go up, none of that stuff is going to be like, I'm not trying to monetize any of it. So, you know, that's essentially when I'm getting flagged. It's basically like they're saying, hey, you can't make money off of this. And if you do, we need some of it. So I guess maybe it's not the end of the world, but still, I'd rather not risk, you know, anyone getting pissed off at me, especially if one of them is like, I don't know, one of my favorite bands or something like that, and I really like them, and they get mad at me because I'm using their music without asking or something, or without paying, or blah, blah, blah. I'd like to avoid that. Wardruna does get flagged. You'd be amazed. Wardruna, there's a bunch of other stuff in that vein that I listen to that, like, it's a ton of that got flagged too, so. Get up early with the kiddo. Oh, okay. So if you're up early with the kiddo and the wife's working in the morning, would that make morning easier for you? Michaela, by the way, I'm glad I could help scratch the itch, even if you're not actually painting. The vicarious painting. I think this is probably going to be my last coat of this for now. Trying not to screw it all up with my big meaty fingers. Alright, I think this is... That one's done. This one's entering the realm of done enough. Is that one? I think this one. Oh no, get in there. That one I already did. All right. Socially distanced painting. Yes, indeed. That was, you know, I think in a way that was part of the reason I started doing this when I did. So, funny story. There's a wonderful painter that I follow on Instagram. She goes by the name The War Mistress. And she does a lot of... Well, I don't want to say the main thing she does, because realistically, I don't know like where her heart lies with painting and armies and stuff. But she does a lot of Warhammer 40k. At least that's what I see a lot of currently from her. But she's just a really good painter in general, and like just a fun personality. So she, when this whole lockdown thing happened, she had done a couple of Instagram live, just sort of like Q&A session kind of things. And I happened to I chimed in on one of them, just kind of like hopped in and was watching and just talking back and forth in the chat a little. And I had been wanting to do some kind of I've been planning to do a YouTube channel, let's put it that way. for like years. I've been thinking about it, talking about it, like wanting to do it. And it just, I kept finding reasons not to do it. By the way, it is time for the libations to begin. So yeah, I just kept like, finding reasons not to do it, putting it off, things like that. And, it was things like, oh, I don't have the right equipment, or I'm not ready yet, or I don't have X, Y, whatever. It was all excuses, basically. And, like, here was this person who was essentially just using their cell phone to go live and, like answer Q&A stuff while working on some hobby of her own. And I was like, okay, I can totally do that. Like, that's not a problem. So it gave me a little bit of, like, the added, I guess, courage to pull the trigger on it. And I figured, too, that since everybody was stuck at home for the foreseeable future, and they weren't getting out, they weren't getting to see their friends, their loved ones, etc. Then I figured doing this kind of thing, at least, like, ideally, some of my friends would join me in the chat, hang out, because I have a lot of, like, artsy, crafty friends, and so maybe while I'm working on this, doing whatever I'm doing, I can basically hang out, and it's like a good opportunity to see them, hang out, talk, catch up, that kind of thing. So it served multiple purposes, let's put it that way. Okay, so we have these skulls base coated to a level that I'm comfortable with. Now we need a little bit of sepia wash. In this case, it is Citadel's Seraphim Sepia. And I happen to really like their washes. I'm using most of their paints because it's just what I have. I have some of the Army Painters line of paints and a couple of Vallejo paints here and there as well. But I was gifted a very large supply of the Citadel paints, and I have been using them pretty much, I wouldn't say exclusively, because like I said, I do have those other paints, but I don't use them as much as I use the Citadel paints, that's for sure. So in this case, for the uninitiated, those that don't know, the wash, or a wash, I should say, is basically you can either paint it over the entire surface, which is what I'm doing in this case, and it will settle into the recesses, adding definition and depth to the overall appearance of the model. So with the sculpt, there's obviously texture and three-dimensionality and depth and stuff like that sculpted into it. But when you put a solid coat of base coat color over the top of it, like I just did, you lose some of that visually. You just don't see it. Whereas this collects, is very, very thin, but also very has a lot of pigment in it. So it will sink in and the pigment will dry in those recesses, thus sort of calling attention to them and making them stand out and be visible. So that is what it does. And yeah. So we're just applying a thin, even coat of this. We don't want to go too crazy with it. We don't want it pooling anywhere necessarily, but all right, that's one. The other reason one of the reasons I am applying it sort of over the entire surface as well is it also acts to sort of stain and glaze and tint the previous base coat. So you'll notice it's going from like a very sort of off-white creamy color, and now because this is a sepia wash, it's sort of like filtering and glazing in this sort of, well, sepia color. So that sort of brownish color. which when the two combined, it looks very much like bone to me. So, old weathered bone. And I'll be going over this with some lighter colors. This is just sort of setting my base values in terms of the color. So we're getting our lowest, darkest colors sort of set first with the base coat. That is the darkest I'm going. Then this wash brings it down a little bit even darker for the recesses. And then I'll be going over it all with a couple of quick dry brushes with some lighter sort of bone off-white beigey colors to, once again, that will basically bring out all the highlights and stuff like that. So the wash doesn't bead off, and no, I don't wipe it. I basically, so you can use the brush itself almost like a sponge or a syringe with like capillary action of the liquid itself. So if I apply a little bit too heavy in one area, I can just sort of tap the brush on that area. Let me see if I can get it to do it so I can sort of demonstrate. I don't know how well this is gonna. You can see here there's like a huge pool in his jawbone of the wash. Well, I don't want that there. So if I touch the brush to it like that, it just soaks it right up into the bristles of the brush again. So that's how you can kind of keep it a little bit more controlled. But otherwise, I'm just sort of slopping it around, and like I'll take like one brushful per skull, and then just keep moving it around, not letting it dry. Just keep moving it around until it's applied evenly. And then if I see it pooling anywhere in particular, I'll go in and do what I just did to like sponge up any, you know, excess that happens to collect in one place or another. But that way you're sort of spreading it around evenly, and it's, you know, not a thick, like gloopy paint. And this stuff is very thin and watery in general, so it's not like, yeah, it tends not to be like real goopy. If it is, you probably have a really bad wash on your hands. Once again, I feel like I'm struggling to keep this in frame, but it's so tiny. All right. And on to the final skull. When it comes time to actually like paint all the little details on here, it's going to be fun because some of these have like armor plates. Some of them still have like muscle and sinew and flesh, and so there's going to be all kinds of fun little details to paint. I think my sort of game plan for how I'm going to tackle these is as follows. Once I'm done the dry brushing stages, which is what's coming up next, then once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and probably glue these in place on the models, and then do the rest of the detail painting once they're actually on the models, because that way it'll be way easier to hold them steady without like screwing something up. And right now I'm just sort of doing like all the messy steps, so it's almost impossible to screw this up. I'm sure some of my very early models would beg to differ, but that's fine, because I am always a firm believer. Everybody starts somewhere. Nobody picks up a brush for the first time and is Picasso. Yes, it is very thin. Yeah, it usually, like most washes, have a heavy amount of some sort of flow improver in it to break the surface tension of, so it's like it flows a lot better into those crevices. So, all right, now we've entered sort of a waiting game while that wash dries. So we are going to change gears back to these bases. Let me get the nippers away, cover my palette so it doesn't get, actually, I'm gonna add a little bit more water. So it's over here so I can see. And squirt. Do 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 do. Just letting the sponge under there absorb as much water. Apparently, I needed to do this a couple of days ago because that is a thirsty sponge. It's the one thing about having an AC running is it also acts as a dehumidifier, so it dries all this stuff up way faster than normal. Alright, I think we've hit a point where the sponge is no longer absorbing, which means it's done. I am using a wet palette. Yes. I made a wet palette for myself. They're actually really easy to make if you want to try one, as like just sort of like a, I don't know, trying one out. And the first one I made was like an old Tupperware sandwich container. And you can either fold up, like what I did was folded up like several sheets of paper towel at the bottom. And sometimes you have to change it out periodically if it gets a little funky. But I found that it wasn't too bad, especially because I usually put a little bit of like I'll either put like a drop of dish soap in the wet palette, like right on the paper towel. Mix it in with the water, or what is essentially what the dish soap does is essentially act as a flow improver. It does the same thing that like a fancier like a Liquitex Flow Aid here. I use this quite often. In fact, mostly what I use this do with this is I'll put a few drops into the water cup that I rinse my brush off with, so that every time I rinse my brush, it comes out with just a little bit of like flow improver on it in the bristles already, so that when I go back to the paint, that moisture and the flow improver mixes with the paint and just helps it go on a little bit smoother. But I also put some in the wet palette, and because of what's in it, and I honestly couldn't tell you exactly what the chemical is. It's basically dish soap, and it acts as like a antibacterial something or other. So it keeps it makes it so that no mold or mildew or anything like that forms in the palette, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, is a good thing. So yeah. Liquitex has a lot of really good stuff in general. So here I've got some plastic glue, plastic cement, whatever you want to call it, and we're just putting this on the contact points on the model here where it's going to hit the base, and and it'll eat right through the paint and the primer. And what it does is it actually melts the plastic together. So in theory, it will form just a rock solid bond. In theory, it can still break, but ideally it will not, because, it's, as I said, quite literally melting the plastic together. And it doesn't cure instantly, but it sets up pretty quickly as well, which is another reason I like it. It's almost like super glue that with plastic just goes a step beyond. We're going to get these guys nailed down on these bases. And then once they're nailed onto these bases, as I am doing now, just going to make sure they're lined up pretty decently down the middle of the base. Looks good to me. Once they're on here and once they're done, I'm going to put some texture paint on the bases and some grass tufts and so forth, just to kind of bring them in line with the rest of my army. Actually, something I thought about today, speaking of my army, something I thought about doing as just sort of like a fun, sort of quick and easy video to try and cut my teeth on a more, I guess, straightforward video style, as opposed to like a live stream like this. But something I thought of was doing a couple of army showcases. I have 2 large armies and then several smaller armies. Not all of them are 100% painted, but most of them are mostly painted. And but I just thought it would be interesting to do like an army showcase kind of thing and basically show the different units. And it would sort of give people a point of reference as well, for those that aren't 100% sure what it is I'm doing or talking about most of the time. Getting a chance to see it all in video form might be helpful and or beneficial to somebody. So, and it would be a lot of fun for me to do, get it all out, set it up on a table with some fancy terrain, take like a big like family photo of my army all together. And at the same time, it sort of gives me a point of accountability in a sense, so that like let's say I do an updated one in 6 months on a certain army, and then you can see what sort of progress I've made on that army, that kind of thing. So if I like paint several new units for an army or add a new hero or something along those lines, then you can sort of take that journey with me to a certain degree. All right. Last but not least, we have random night number 2, rounding out our unit of 5. So we have here a unit champion, which is the guy with the sword right here. We have the musician with the big golden horn, and then the standard bearer, and then 2 guys with lances, just doing knight things. All right, so that glue has to set up and dry, and unfortunately our wash is still drying as well. So that means we need to find something else to work on. So we're just going to slide this stuff back and out of the way for now. Bit in reach. Line up these heads with the horses, because I like to randomly organize things like this. Okay, don't need this paint. We can put that away. What can I do in the meantime? Well, let's see. Looking around real quick. Okay, got it. Pick out the wet palette again. Unfortunately, I don't have anything since the last video to update on the commissions that I've been working on. I got a little bit done over my vacation on a couple of the commissions, but over the last week or so, I have not particularly worked on it. I've been trying to work on some of these nights, taking a little break from the commissions. Otherwise, I kind of burn myself out on them. And fortunately, none of them have like time limits on them, so I can sort of take my time and enjoy myself with it. Delicious. All right. So from last week's stream, I believe it was, I have some of these pillars here that I never finished. So we're going to paint the flames. And I need some, let's see here. Let's do this color. A light base coat of gray. And then we're going to work to a white from there. And we'll do the rest of the flame. So, let's see here. For those that are not up to speed on this, I think Michaela, you might not be aware of this, but whoever else might benefit from this information as well. A lot of the terrain that I've been working on, I have a project coming up that is, once the lockdown is over, and I can get back to actually playing games of Warhammer, the game plan is I'm going to start recording my own battle reports, or bat reps as they are called. So I'm trying to get all this terrain done so that I can use it in those bat reps. That being said, the campaign, well, actually, I guess that's sort of its own bit of the conversation, but the bat reps I plan on doing, I'm a strong believer that if you're going to do something like YouTube or, you know, I guess anything vaguely, what's the word I'm looking for? Not like a business, because the YouTube thing isn't necessarily going to be a business. If I can make a little bit of money out of it, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. That's not why I'm doing it. But basically, and that's in frame. Basically, what I'm trying to get at, I think, is that, shit, I actually just completely lost my train of thought. Sorry, team. What the fuck was I saying? I don't know. Oh, right. So you need to have like sort of a niche, something that you're going to do. Like, sure, there are other people that do battle reports, but what will make my battle reports stand apart? What will make them different? Why will people tune in to watch my stuff as opposed to all of the other channels out there that are doing really good battle reports? And to me, the answer is narrative. There's a couple of battle report channels out there that do what they call narrative battle reports, but the narrative is super weak, and it's basically like, you know, they'll come up with like maybe they'll come up with a reason why their armies are fighting that particular day. Maybe they won't, and they just kind of smash their armies together, and it's entertaining, don't get me wrong. I like it, and I watch whenever they put out a video. I will sit down and watch it, but I really I come from like an RPG background as well. Like, I play Dungeons and Dragons, and I think I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was in, like, I don't know, 5th grade or something like that. So I I had a long hiatus where I wasn't playing that, but I was also playing like other RPG games, whether it was console games or like MMOs, things like that. Anyway, I'm really big into story and narrative and all that stuff. And so I want all of these battle reports to have some long sort of like payoff, sort of like interwoven story to them. And I was trying to decide how I was going to go about that. What I decided to do was essentially take one of the mortal realms. I chose the realm of death, Shaiish, because again, it's metal as fuck. And so my game plan is to essentially tell a bit of the history of the realm of Shaiish, so the realm of death. And all of the battle reports that I do are going to be, it's going to be myself, my good friend Jason, my good friend Joe, possibly my brother. There might be a couple of other people that pop in from time to time, but the overall thing is that all of our armies will be from somewhere in the realm of death. And it's basically, I'm going to set up a big campaign map. There's going to be like, you know, our heroes, there's going to be like progression levels, which is not something that comes in the stock Age of Sigmar package. So yeah, so I'm going to sort of, it's basically going to be Dungeons and Dragons, the war game. Sort of. That's the elevator pitch, at least, for you know, what's going on. So it should be a lot of fun. I've got a lot of the ideas already written down. Some of them I still need to kind of iron out. But basically, it's going to be telling the story of a particular chunk of Shaiish. It's going to be telling, like, the character that we are playing is essentially the army itself and that faction. And within that, there will be multiple heroes and characters and stuff like that that you will get to, as somebody playing in one of these games with me, you will get to sort of, you know, play that out. You know, if, like, let's say one of your heroes wants to go collect a certain artifact, they have to go on a quest and fight the army that's like either currently holds that artifact, or maybe it's like buried in a tomb somewhere and they have to fight their way through the tomb's defenders or something like that. That's the basic idea and premise, is you know, fighting these armies in a way that, like, you know, you're struggling for resources, maybe you're struggling for territory, you're trying to, you know, eke out an existence as a, you know, a collective faction of peoples within the realm of death. So anyway, that's the idea for what I'm going to be doing in those videos. That's why I'm working on all of this terrain like a madman, is I'm trying to get all of it done for that, those videos in particular. So something I thought about not too long ago was actually doing, before I sit down to do like the campaign proper, I think I'm going to be sitting down probably by myself with my army in particular. I'll be playing my Legions of Nagash, my undead army. The idea is I'm thinking about doing, because I want to get some practice filming the battle reports before just sort of jumping in, figure out like what style I want to shoot them in and how I want to work, you know, the sort of mechanics of filming specifically. And so what I'm going to do is probably take my army and do like an intro to my army, and have a couple of short games that I basically are pure narrative games. You'll see some of the mechanics, you know, like obviously, like I'm still going to be rolling dice, and it's not just going to be me like RPing like an entire army's worth of plastic heroes. But you know, I'll be basically playing through the, I guess for lack of a better term, the origin story of my army. So my army is led by a vampire. And so what I think I'm going to do is try and tell some of the backstory of that vampire, and maybe start like soon after he was, you know, granted unlife, and, you know, basically how he amassed his initial power. That kind of stuff sounds like fun to me. But it also sounds like a way I can fairly easily kind of introduce things and introduce myself to filming in that space. So for anybody that has been following me on Instagram, or I guess most of my Instagram stuff gets kicked over to Facebook as well. I finished weeks ago now, probably a couple of months ago, I finished staining and doing like the finishing touches on my gaming table. So that that's done, and that looks pretty good. All right, we have our base coats on the flame. D&D and Rice playthrough. Yeah, something like that. Probably a little bit less fucking though. If I had to guess. That was one thing Anne Rice had plenty of in her books. I read enough to catch that. All right. So we're moving too quickly for our own good at this point, guys. I hate to say it, but now we have to wait for this paint to dry too. So let's try and circle back here and check on these skull heads. Actually, that one looks good. I think we're in business. Team. All right, let's see. Oh, yeah. Yeah, looking good. All right. We're good to fly. I don't think I ever read any of her underground stuff. And I think I'm okay with that. I don't know. I enjoyed Interview with the Vampire, the movie, and I read a couple of her books, all pretty much dealing with Lestat in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know. It wasn't for me. Let's put it that way. What I did enjoy on the vampire side of things was the Vampire the Masquerade series. Some of those were really good. All right, so we're going to be doing a little bit of dry brushing. All of the bone I've been doing for this army, I've been trying to go for like a pale like, I don't know, frozen bone or something like that. And so I'm skipping over some of the mid-tone bone and just going right to the light colors. We've got a small dry brush here, which is by most regards still a large dry brush. And can't wait to get these heads glued in place because this is really driving me nuts. Reminds me of one of my old favorite stupid jokes. The pirate walks into the tavern with a ship's steering wheel attached to his junk. The bartender says, "Hey, what's up with that steering wheel on your junk?" And the pirate says, "It's driving me nuts." I don't know if any of this, how well you can see. Let's show one I've dry brushed next to one I haven't, and let's see if, yeah. So this is the one here. This is the one I dry brushed. You can see it's lighter than the one I did not dry brush. And let me go ahead and try and hold these up to the camera so that it focuses a little bit. So with the dry brush, you can still see in the recesses, it's got that dark sepia. Let's get that back into focus maybe. Come on, camera. Oh, look at that. That's crisp. All right. So yeah, you can see in the recesses, it still has the dark sepia and the dark sort of tanny beige color from the this one here. But the one that I dry brushed, it again, you're catching all of the highlights with the dry brush. So you're getting the raised areas and the flat sort of the flats and so forth. I'm getting a little bit on there with this color specifically. And again, it adds to that depth and that three-dimensionality. So that's sort of the point here. And with dry brushing, you basically just want like a big fluffy dry brush, as the name would sort of imply. And in this case, I'm using just a cheap makeup brush that I bought at, like, I think this one was from Ocean State Job Lot a while ago. My wife actually picked me up a set of really big makeup brushes that I use for like terrain and stuff like that. I find makeup brushes are just fantastic dry brushes in general. So I love using those. See, my brother Colin has joined us in the chat. Oop, that's got too much paint still. What is up, Colin? Welcome to the stream. All right, on to the last one. All right, and once this color is done, I have one more lighter color that I'm going to throw on as well. That is going to be sort of my highest highlight. And then these heads, the sort of the main portion of the head being the bone is going to be done. And then we can glue them in place, and then we can take care of all the little bits and bobs that's on there, any of the muscle and the sinew and the flesh and the reins and the bridles, and there's some have, like, this one's got armor plate on it. So does this one here, so we'll take care of that coming up. Ahoy, matey, indeed. Were you actually here for the pirate talk just a second ago, or did you throw that in an incredibly timely manner? Alright. Now, let's figure out which head we want on which horse. We want to give the champion this one. Like that. It's got armor. It's got fancy reins. I feel like that looks like a champion horse head. These two we'll give to like the plebe knights, because those are the most basic looking heads. All right, I'm faced with a choice here. I am faced with a choice. We have one here that has basic reins and an armor plate, and then one that's got fancy reins and no armor plate. Now, question is, which one do we give to which? We have a musician and we have the standard bearer. So who gets the armor plate and who gets the fancy reins? I'm going to leave that up to the chat. While I wait for an answer, I'm going to sip on my beer. Fancy reins musician. All right. Standard gets armor. Okay. Got it. I like it. Thank you, team. I appreciate it. All right. Now that that's been ironed out, I like that you guys are all on the same page, too. You said the same thing, just in different ways. Michaela, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. I super appreciate it. It was really good catching up and talking to you. I hope you have yourself a good one, and I hope you have a good weekend. Take care. I do this, by the way, every Friday. So 9 p.m. is when I kick this thing off. So if you want to swing back, you'll see notifications from me. Usually, I try and get them out earlier than I did today. Today's was a little bit last minute because I was doing dad stuff. Yeah. There'll be notifications going out ahead of time before I go live. And all these videos get posted up onto my YouTube as well. So if you haven't gotten your fix, you can check it out there. Peter, what is up, buddy? How's it going? Left the cap off of my plastic glue, and some of it has dried in the nozzle. Yeah. This guy, Peter McLeod Warwick here, is beast mode personified. He's gone from rock star to MMA fighter. He's fucking Diesel. Oh, shite. Alright. He's got a head. Feel a little bit like Oprah. Handing out heads left, right, and center. You get a head. And you get a head. Everybody look under your chairs. Oh, yeah. Team, I gotta hand it to you. You can sure pick him. Look at this. Look at this head for the banner bearer with the armor on it. He's got his head kicked up high like he's prancing and just showing off. He's like, hey, look at me. I'm the fanciest horse around. I think that works. Fits the personality of the model. You guys are killing it. Come on. Go. Oh no. I just got this far and realized I didn't. Oh, just broke a base off too. Whoopsie. But I just got this far and then realized that I never put on the second dry brush I was talking about. Whoopsie. So I guess we're going to have to do that and be real careful about it. Boy, do I feel silly. Alright. We can make it work. Oh, you guys and your head jokes. I knew somewhere someone was thinking it. Spoiler alert, it was also me. Alright. They've all got their respective noggins. Try and dry this brush off a little bit more. Alright. We can reach back for an hour. No, not that one. This one. And then this one. What is that, an homage to Austin Powers, if I recall correctly? Of course, in my haste, I forgot that I was also needing to dry brush the tops of their heads. As this is sort of a highlight color, not getting the top of something is kind of silly. Oh, you guys are killing it. So Peter, how's things going for you? How you been lately? You faring okay with this whole lockdown situation? Are you counted amongst the essential like myself, or are you on vacation for a while? Working from home? Nice. Yeah. While homeschooling was not something I got to enjoy, it was years and years of being a general recluse and nerd. Why go out and party when you could stay home and play computer games? You know what I mean? Kept me out of trouble, I guess, so there's that. Fell off his base. I gotta be careful. Lest he will do it again. All right. And that's done. What we got for time? 10:35. Look at that. We still got some time to go. Thor Jr. I assume you're talking about my daughter. She's doing good. She's doing real good. Currently fast asleep, no doubt. All right. Well, they're looking good. They are looking good. All right, let's see. So we got the bone done. I like to work from the inside of the model out. So I start with whatever the lowest layer is, in this case, the bone, and then I work out towards the surface. So that way, if I, accidentally get paint on something I don't intend, when I do the next the next layer or the next level, I can sort of clean up my mistakes that way. So that being said, I feel like the next logical place to go is the muscle and sinew. Yeah, let's go muscle and sinew. So we need, that's a good word right there. I think I used that on something else. Do I want this one? Ow! That was, no, we want that one. Bugman's Glow. She can bench a full-grown bison. You are correct. Yeah, my daughter is a tough cookie. You're referring to my beard? My beard is intimidating? Or her beard? She doesn't have one yet. Maybe when she's older. I'm not ruling it out. One side of his face. Get the other side done. There. Mark! What's going on? I see Mark in the chat there. How's it going, buddy? What are you up to these days? Staying busy, staying out of trouble? We are just rocking right along on this. Like where he's going. Let's recolor that muscle on the other side, so we'll do it here too. Keep things here. All right, it's done. That guy does not have. Oh no, he's got that little sort of windpipey, it's jugular. I don't know what it is. Something meaty hanging out of his lower jaw. So we're gonna pick that up with the same color. Because it ain't bone, but it looks pretty organic. So we're just going to make it whatever this weird color of insides. Ooh, shit. Little paint where we don't want it. Magic eraser. Got it. All right. Tell you guys, this chair is not comfortable for sitting in long term. Maybe that's why I haven't gotten much painting done. Every time I sit in this chair, I'm reminded of how friggin' uncomfortable it is. Thanks. Just ripping through these guys. Got about 15 minutes left of this stream. Very least, finish up this step here. Maybe we'll get on to the next step, whenever that happens to be. But I'm not counting on it. I'm not counting on it. We're just gonna focus on doing what we can. I'm trying to get through it quickly, yes, but I'm also trying to get through it not crappy. We went through the earlier bits as quick as we could because they didn't matter as much, because I was going to be doing this, going over everything. So if there was little bits that were imperfect, they would be covered or in some way hidden. Good though. Looking good. Alright. We got him. Got him covered. Alright. This guy, he's got a little bit of something going on. Probably the least out of all of these guys. Actually, I take that back. One guy had nothing, so that's by default the least. And last but not least, this guy. This guy, him and the other sort of random knight with lance, what amounts to the red shirts. He has a little bit of skin on the nose of his horse. Just a little. So I'm going to have to figure out what color I want to paint that. I have some ideas. I think I have most of the colors I want for it sitting right here on my palette already. And that works out for everyone involved. And by that I mean me and this guy. And I guess you guys, although it doesn't really make much difference for you one way or the other. Whoop. All right. That's it for that color. Done and done. Oh, big old stretch. Sip of water. And by sip, I mean chug half a glass. Between the beer and the coffee. All right. So we got this thing mostly done. We got to figure out what we're doing with that muscle. We need to make that a little bit less flat. It needs to be doing something. You know what? We got a lot of purple on this model. I'm thinking maybe we hit it with a purple wash just to, but we don't want it strong purple. So where's my medium? So we're going to take some of this medium, got the palette here. We're going to take, come on, open sesame. And take 1, 2 paintbrushes of medium. And then we'll come into this wash. We're going to just take 1 of those. So the medium is just basically paint without pigment. It's just clear medium, but it is useful for amongst other things helping to dilute a color. So in this case I didn't want it to be a super strong purple, which is what it would come up with fresh out of the pot, so I diluted it, and when I put this on, it will still show up as purple, but it's going to be a lot more faint. And it's basically, you're going to get that purple sort of collecting in the recesses, but not so much on top surfaces. So it'll help, again, add, just like with the bone, when I put a wash on that, this will help to bring a little bit of dimensionality to it without super changing the color of it, which is nice, because I like the color of it. I've gotten somewhere we don't want it, so we're just going to go back in and suck that up with the brush. That's good. Next, I will say that this seems to be, because it's thin, it seems to be just wicking like right through the paper on this wet palette. Which is kind of a pain in the ass. Although really I didn't mix a ton to begin with, so I guess I'm not that surprised that it's going quick. Once again, got somewhere we don't want it. All right. Make sure our brush is clean. Go back into, you know what? Instead of using the brush, these things here, little eyedroppers, these things are amazing. Come in, take 1, 2, 2 drops. The rest back. Rinse that out. We come in here. We take 1 drop of the purple. Rinse that back out. Perfect. All right. I love those things. The back end of our paintbrush. This is sturdy mix. Why I said sturdy. That's not really the word I'm looking for. Thorough. There. A thorough mix. We'll go with that. Did I do this one already? I did. Yeah, I did. If I had to ask, let's reinforce it a little bit more. I was running low when I got to this guy, so not as pronounced as it was on the first. There we go. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking with gas. Oh, this guy's got that whole throat thing going on. Set. I like that one. That one's easy. It's quick and easy. One little splash of this particular thing. How are we doing on time? Ooh, we are down to the wire. We will at least finish this. All right, so we got through that stage on all of them. I'm going to go ahead and say that a little bit of muscliness is done. Where was the one that had the skin? That was this one. Let's do one color. I think on this. Let's try you. I like where this color sits. Need a lot. Don't need a lot. Just a little dab will do you. A little touch of water just to thin it down a little. And this is like a really dark gray blue. And the idea I'm going for is that this was maybe black at one point, perhaps, but it's cold, it's dry, sort of desiccated flesh. So very dehydrated. So it has lost some of its coloring. At least that's the idea I'm going for in my head. Put this on. Another quick layer just to make sure we're good. Solid coat. Okay. I just feel like we need to darken that down a touch. So I'm going to take this dark gray, mix that in just a little bit. We're going to push that further towards black by adding this dark gray. Still going to get that very blue. Oh, I like where that is. I like that. That's good. All right, like where that came out. Waiting on that paint to dry. All right. Yeah, I gotta stop trying to paint that same area until it dries because I'm just tearing paint up at this point. All right, we're just gonna let that sit. Gonna let that dry. And in the meantime, we're gonna come over here. We're gonna get this light out of the way. Here we are, team. We did it. We made it through another stream. I know I had fun. Hopefully all of y'all had fun as well. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and sticking with me, joining me in the chat. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got for today. I'm going to keep working on this probably a little bit tonight just to kind of, you know, I want to see this through. These guys have been on my table for a while, and they've been getting closer and closer to being done, and they're just about there. So I want to push them over the edge tonight, hopefully. That being said, again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with me today, spending a little time. If you enjoyed it, I urge you to go over to my YouTube channel. The link is in the description here. It should be very simply youtube.com/Wes Odinson, WESODINSON. And go ahead and subscribe over there. All these videos, when I'm done with the stream here, they all get posted up to the YouTube channel. And there will be future content as well going straight to the YouTube channel. So there will be more stuff coming out in the near future, headed straight there. So if you're interested in catching that when it comes out, click that little bell icon. You'll get yourself a sweet notification. Otherwise, follow me on Instagram, Twitter. Stay tuned here on Facebook. I go live every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we usually go for a good 2 hours or so 9 to 11. And yeah, so there you go. That's all I've got for tonight. So until next time, I hope you have yourselves a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next Friday. So, take care.